Hello, and welcome into this week's edition of the Citrus Preps podcast alongside Mike Dean. I'm Brett Knudsen, and appreciate you taking the time to join us as we roll on through the last couple of episodes of our podcast for the year.
Almost done here.
I know that, I don't know if the teachers feel the same way or the kids do, but it seems like the year has flown by.
It has. Remember we're in August, we were setting this up, and this is our first year doing this, and it's been really successful, by the way. Thank you very much for subscribing, but it just flew by. Just completely flew by. That's time now. As you get older, young guys, it goes by quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And so real quick, congratulations to all the seniors who are getting ready for graduation, moving on, not just those who participated in athletics, but everybody moving on to the next step of their life, whether it be college, starting life in the real world with a job or something like that.
World.
Come to work at Deems. I'll take care of you.
Bring it.
Come work at Citrus Preps. We need good photographers
That's exactly
out
right.
there.
There you go. Bring them on.
But congratulations. It's quite an accomplishment, and we've got a lot of talented young men and women in this county, and it's fantastic to see them moving on to college. Like I said, regardless of athletics or not, you start seeing on Twitter the schools posting those who are moving on with scholarships and getting aid and all that. It's fantastic.
It is good. That's always a fun time. I remember that way in the back.
Yeah, and appreciate it. As you said, Mike, it has been a good year for us. We've enjoyed it. We anticipate doing bigger and better next year. Nothing is perfect the first time around. We've got some things we're going to work. We're like a team. We went back and looked at the film. Yeah. Some things we need to get better at. And but we're going to trust the process.
You should really see that in slow-mo too. It's really bad.
We're going to trust the process. But
trust the process.
Yeah, that's right. So
we're using some sports cliches there.
Yeah,
like that.
we anticipate being back in the fall, bigger and better, and doing the same thing. So as I said, thank you to the athletic directors, all four ADs in the county that we deal with, the coaches who allow us access, the players who get in front of the camera and the microphone. Some of them don't particularly enjoy doing it, but they do, and we've enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun. And we're not finished, though, because there still is some games and activities taking place, still some teams alive for state championships, and that's fantastic to see. And what about that Crystal River softball team?
Wow. What a
Tuesday night, they come from behind against Bellevue, tie it up in the last inning, and then win it in the 10th, 2-1. A walk-off hit by Jaden Vickers. Just another one of the talented names that Crystal River plays a lot of. Just been dominant throughout the year and in the postseason. So they'll get their chance at a spot in the state Final Four coming up tomorrow night. It'll be 7 o'clock. They do get to host. That's the 6A Region 2 Championship, as they will take on Robinson. What do you know about them? Not much. 22-7 on the year, so they have a good record.
Good team.
Crystal River 18-6, and as you mentioned, Ms. Vickers on the bump for them. You got to feel like you got a chance to shut somebody down and win. So best
to
of
get
luck.
to the Final Four. Another team to get the Final Four.
That's just a huge. We talked about. Look, it's been a pretty good year at Crystal River High School. Flag football team made a nice run into the state tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the girls basketball team and the boys basketball team gets into the state tournament. The football team gets into the state tournament. It's been a pretty good year at Crystal River High School. And this is an opportunity for now one of the last teams playing in the year to make it all the way to a state Final Four. Pretty impressive stuff.
It is. It'd be great for the Pirate throng and all their supporters out there, because Crystal River's athletics have always been a part of the big tradition that Crystal River Pirates have. Not as long as with Citrus and Lecanto too, but you got to be glad and happy for all the educators out there and the coaching staff and all the athletic personnel out there. It's really nice.
Head coach Dion Copeland taking charge of that program and doing a real fine job. One win away from the Final Four, and you never know. You get there. Anything, especially in softball, but you get there and you have a pitcher like Jaden Vickers. You feel like you got a chance to win a 1-0 game every time you go out there.
Yep.
And it took 2 the other night to beat a good Bellevue team, but they got it done. And with sometimes when you start to have a couple of those wins, last at bat, you're down a run, you find a way with a key triple, and then a wild pitch scores to tie the game, and then you win it in the 10th. You start to feel that confidence that we can do anything.
That and are we destined to do this?
Well, yeah, I mean, you win a couple of those, yeah, and it seems like that's the case. So, best of luck to them. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m., Crystal River High School. Pack that place if you can. Please. Come out and support those young ladies as they try to move on to the state Final Four. Not to be outdone, the Seven Rivers baseball team, 20-4 on the year. They're back in a familiar spot, just one win away from the state Final Four. They play Seacrest Country Day out of Naples. This is the fourth year in a row they've played this team. Coach Phillips, there's a story up on our YouTube channel if you want to check it out as they prepare for this game. It's become a pretty good rivalry, and not necessarily a friendly rivalry. You go back to last year, and I read the article in the Chronicle post game, and their head coach was, it's tough when you lose a chance to go to the Final Four. It was more about what their team did wrong. Not a whole lot of praise for Seven Rivers and Coach Phillips and those kids. They remember that.
Sure.
You know?
And I would be using that on the blackboard too.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, you guys didn't win. We lost the game. Well, now you get another chance. Interesting, program, private school down there. John Kruk helps them out. His son is a junior first baseman. What does that mean? I don't know if it means anything. It just means they have some name recognition. A quality team with a good record. But
we have a quality team tier. I mean, Phillips is good. I mean, they've been really good.
I mean, and I talked to him before the season started, and they graduated 5 seniors from a team that went to the state Final Four last year. 4 of those guys are playing college baseball right now. And when you're talking about a Class 2A school, small school, and you got 4 of your starting 8 players, 9. That go on to college, that's a huge loss.
It is.
And the expectation was this was a rebuilding year. And, I remember talking to Coach Phillips over the summer, and he said, a lot of people were like, maybe, you want a good time to step away. He's like, no, man, this is what I want. This is why you coach. I want to see how far I can take these guys because everyone doesn't think we can.
Yep.
And lo and behold, they're right back in it. Played a good schedule. Tough loss to a Trinity Catholic who's got a Florida commit that just pitched the daylights out of it, but they were competitive against that game. Mount Vernon Academy as well. So, they've been really, really good throughout the season, and I had a chance to talk with them as they prepare for their game coming up tomorrow night, and this is what Coach Phillips and a couple of his players had to say.
Ultimately, the goal is district championship because that's fun to hang it out on the fence and stuff, and that's the first goal. The second goal after districts we try to see is how far we can go. It's kind of nice to be able to say, if we one more and we go 3 back to back and 3 out of 5. Not many programs do that, and to be honest with you, I don't know how we got to this point, but I've got good assistant coaches and good parents and good school and church that back us up, and ultimately we got good, solid, good foundation kids that want to work hard every single day.
It's pretty exciting. I've always wanted to be here, and the past couple years since I got here my sophomore year after leaving Lecanto, I just came into a winning culture, and going back to Fort Myers is my dream in high school and stuff, and then going on to the next level, play college baseball.
Starting out the season, we came out of the gate banging, and we honestly kept that up. Well, we had a week drought where we kind of fell apart, but I believe that we're back and better, and I think that we're going to go to Seacrest and do some good things and be back in Fort Myers for sure.
And that's the goal, to get back to Fort Myers and just 1 win away. And it'll be a good game tomorrow. 4 o'clock is when they play. So if you're heading down to Naples area, it's a little earlier start, not at 7 p.m. They'll get that game underway at 4 p.m. So best of luck to Coach Phillips and that program. And they've started to turn it into and maybe it's not start the word. They're in the it's a program that reloads now. There
It
are
is.
kids that want to go there to play for Coach Phillips and want to be a part of that program because what we talked about is maybe what they thought would be their Achilles heel this year is one of their strengths, and that is they're putting kids into college afterwards.
Yep.
And that's what parents and kids and they're playing in state Final Fours. This could be the third time in the last 5 years.
Yeah, and you saw Delgado who mentioned that he came over from Lecanto. So, I mean, that's exactly what's happening is when you have a building program like this, well, I'm sorry, not building program, a built program like this, you're going to get those people, those kids that want to come in, that talent that wants to come in. And Coach Phillips has done a great job of taking that. And I read somewhere, I forget where it was now, I mean, it was on Twitter or something, but how many kids now he has coming in when he started with.
Yeah,
from the standpoint of 12
it wasn't that
12
wasn't
kids
that long ago. It was a dozen kids.
Yeah, and 12 kids, and then all of a sudden he works it up. Now he's got 30, 40 kids coming in.
Varsity JV, a middle school program. Kids are coming to be a part of that program, and it's it's building.
Like the Jesuit program you're looking at, down south in Tampa. That's a great example because they're right in there every year. Jesuit is.
Yeah, and we talk about the football and the basketball too in this area, in this county. You've got to have a very special group to make a deep run in football and basketball in this county. Almost a once a decade or a generational type team. The baseball talent in this area is up there with some of the tops across the state. There is a lot of talent in Citrus, Marion, Hernando County, and if you get those kids all in the same place, you can do what he's doing. And I think I think they feel the same way. Coach Dominguez at Crystal River and Coach Logue at Lecanto and Coach Despres at Citrus. I think they feel the same way. If you can keep the kids, you got a chance. It is in some ways cyclical, especially with the way you can move around the county in terms of athletics. And then with Seven Rivers, it's a private school. You can come from anywhere. They've got some kids down in Hernando County. You can also, and there's quite a few. Coach Phillips has made no bones about it. There's quite a few kids that are virtual school kids too. I mean, so you get a program like that, kids are gonna seek it out.
Totally
and this is why he's got so many to choose from, because of the success, and it's going to continue. It would appear, I think he said, the majority of his roster right now in varsity is 10th graders. I mean, they're going to lose a couple of good seniors, but you would assume, as we've talked about, this is now just a reload process for that program.
And what's funny is that you look about 10th graders, and they're getting one game away from the Final Four. But in baseball, it's a really different type of mindset that you have to have, and along with the physicality of it, you don't have to have the big bruising brawlers here. You have to have a couple of good pitchers. You have to have some great base hitters, and then you got to string together some wins. And that's what Coach Phillips has done, and he's put together a nice little squad. And I think that's going to be continue on for the next couple of years, as long as he's there.
Yeah, it certainly certainly has turned it into, as we said, a solid program, recognized not only in this area but across the state. They've been in the state top 25 for most of the year, and that's all classification. So best of luck to them as they will hit the road on Friday, a trip down to Naples, which they hope will then turn into a return trip next week back to Fort Myers. So best of luck to Coach Phillips and his young men. And go ahead.
I want to make sure we mentioned Dunellen too.
Yeah, they had a big win to keep their season.
We're looking at Fort Myers
alive.
too, so we got two clubs here that could go to Fort Myers and be in the state Final Four.
Yeah, and that's also what we just talked about with the baseball talent. Dunellen has got a lot of the youth baseball in Dunellen is pretty good. They've got some a lot of kids that go play travel ball and are very successful. The baseball program has been good. They're going to face a familiar foe, North Marion, coming up, and a chance to go to the Final Four for Dunellen. I mean, pretty impressive stuff, because you're sort of in Springstead's shadows, but they're the one who's left standing right now.
Exactly.
and that's impressive. So a chance on the baseball softball side to have 3 teams make it to the state Final Four, as we talked about. That this is
awesome.
this is fertile ground for baseball softball. There's a lot of talent that strolls around Citrus County and up into Marion and Hernando, and we see that, and that's why these teams have success, and there's a lot of good coaches too.
That's true.
Which help cultivate that success. And I know softball and baseball too. Those coaches are very active in youth baseball, softball, travel teams, and that's how you help cultivate the talent.
Yep, you have to be.
Absolutely.
All right.
And also, real quick, we want to congratulate state track and field
Yes.
was held, and good showing by
Tyler Caldwell,
yeah.
3rd place in the discus in 3A, and from Citrus High School. And congratulations to him. He got a good one there. We had a couple of, I think he was actually going in for the shot put too, but he missed out on the shot put in. But we had a couple of high finishers from all the schools in the top 10. I think it was top 12. Of course, they didn't medal, but they did finish in the top 10. So congratulations to all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And tonight and tomorrow we'll put a wrap on the spring football for area high school teams. Crystal River, they made that announcement because of the softball team playing at home tomorrow night. They moved their spring game up to tonight. They will host Williston 7 p.m. tonight out at Crystal River High School. So Williston and Crystal River 7 p.m. tonight. Also, Lakewood Ranch is at Lecanto. That's a 7 p.m. kickoff at Lecanto High School tonight. Seven Rivers is hosting a jamboree with 3 other schools: Bronson, First Academy of Leesburg, and Faith Christian out at Warrior Park. So those 3 in action tonight, and then tomorrow it's it is the debut of Coach O'Brien and Citrus as they take on Bellevue at 7 p.m. That game will be at Citrus High School.
Should be a good game too to get some eyeballs on what Coach O'Brien has in store for next year.
Yeah, I mean we talked to him and he talked about that this is going to be a new look offense, kind of the same old Citrus on defense. Coach Alexander's got the defense there. And he's Chop's going to take care of them and do what they do each and every year. But the offense is, we've talked about it before. What do you do? This area with the athletes that you have, what do you do? And he's going to bring in this new system. He's going to go fast. He's going to still emphasize the run, but quick, get in a lot of plays. And, it's it'll be the first chance to see how the young men are picking it up, because it is a huge change. I mean, just from the, as you mentioned, the physicality, the athletic standpoint, you got to be in good shape.
Yep.
And there will be growing pains with that, because, I mean, you've got to learn to not only get up to the line, snap the ball, but do everything, avoid penalties, avoid the false starts.
Exactly.
And we've talked about it with that type of offense. It's when it's humming, man, is it fun to watch? And can you just absolutely wear out a defense? When it gets bogged down, you gotta wear out your defense too, because it's going to be 3 and out. So it's one of those feast or famine, but you see it at the college level all the time. I mean, that you're going to have some 3 and outs. You're going to have some quick series, yeah. But so Coach O'Brien and his staff, I know they're very excited. And as we mentioned, different teams have different things they're trying to accomplish in spring. I think all have the same mission: is get the kids as ready as you can for the fall, because once August hits and practice starts, it feels like you got 3 days, and then you got the classic, and then the regular season starts. So you want to get them as ready as you can. Crystal River, obviously we've mentioned they've got a lot of, not a lot of holes, but yeah, they do have a lot of holes to fill from some talented players that are moving on. And Coach Lowry's got to find the next group of athletes that are going to step in. And the one thing that we did see Crystal River do last year is they're not afraid to sort of move and change what they're doing offensively and defensively, but we really saw on the offensive side mid-season. I mean, they tried to throw the ball a little bit early. Yep. It worked fairly well in the Denellen game to start the year, and then they had some games where they struggled, and then it was just more the running attack. And Coach Lowry will change it up to fit his personnel. Coach Harper at Lecanto, the dean of coaches in Citrus County. I mean, he's been here a long time now. The old man of coaching in this county, Coach Harper. But
I didn't say that, Coach.
But he's look, we've talked about this group of kids that he's been sort of pushing to, you need to
Grooming
take.
'em.
Yeah, I mean, he thought they would take a big step last year, and it didn't go as well as he'd hoped. And now you've got to.
And even in a harder district. I think.
Yeah, I mean, they're moving up.
Unfortunately.
Smaller district.
No, smaller district, but
but
it's a harder
you're
district.
different. Yeah, I mean, you got Springstead in there. I mean, so yeah, it's going to be a challenge. And we've talked about it. It's not to totally nitpick, but they got to find a quarterback that's going to keep their offense moving. Whether it's the couple of guys who saw action last year or it's somewhere else, they've got to get that offense where they can pick up consistent first downs, because we saw them. It just
It doesn't
taxed
work.
their defense
When they
last
had
year.
a quarterback like McGee, when they had winter district and they were in there
Yeah.
5-5, went to the playoffs, that's what they need to have. And that's what most
They
teams
need Jeremiah
will see.
Lucas to throw it out to.
Exactly. So there's a lot of things that he has to put in and plug here and get successful. And I think Coach Harper will try to find somebody and keep somebody there. But
Yeah, and you can be successful without having that stud quarterback
No, he
that's
doesn't
going
have
to
to be.
play D1. If you're going to do that, though, you got to have a big physical offensive line that you're going to just pound the football with consistently. And that's one thing that I'm sure Coach Harper and his staff are working on. I mean, you got to. It also helps too to if you've got those. We've talked about this a lot. Those one or two kids in this area can make a huge difference wherever they happen to be. I mean, we've seen it in Mike, our 7+ years that we've done football together. Citrus has had a couple of kids that were really, really talented and took them to a big win over Vanguard and a spot in the state playoffs. We've seen Crystal River with a couple of talented players. Great season last year. State playoffs. You mentioned McGee and Jeremiah Lucas, couple of talented kids. And, Seven Rivers as well. I mean, you've seen, you got to have those. The
playmakers.
I don't know if two's the magic number, but it seems to work nicely.
Yeah, exactly.
Two or three difference makers.
Perfect, yep.
And you become a team that is a 7-8 win team and good enough to make the playoffs.
Yep.
And but the challenge for the coaches is it's not like you're in your science lab and you're creating these kids have physically got to be there. You got to
I'm sure Coach Harper has tried.
maybe he has. I think all the coaches have. If you
sure they
if you could clone them, you would. But that that is the challenge. I mean, you've got to have those difference makers, and they've got to be at your school. Otherwise, you're going to have to take advantage of what you have and try to grind out some wins and hope that you can just try to physically impose it. And I think that's We've seen it at Citrus. I think Lecanto's done a good job of it in Crystal River. I mean, you got to be stout on defense.
First rule of
our county
football
is
right
going
there.
to yield big defensive type players that can push you around. That's where you're going to have to make your hay, because we're not blessed with Division I quarterbacks that go through here every other year, and Division I running backs
They
and
come
wide
through here and
receivers.
play us, but
Usually
we
at
don't
Nature
get no
Coast,
company.
right?
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
Westport on occasion. But I mean, and that's look, it happens in Marion County too. I mean, they don't have 35 kids signing D1 scholarships every year, but they've got a few, and North Marion seems to get their fair share. Dunellen has a couple, and that's the difference sometimes. And when you don't have those couple of difference makers, coaches got to coach.
That's the coaching right there.
Yeah, and not always easy. But again, the schedule for tonight: Lecanto home 7 p.m. against Lakewood Ranch, Crystal River home against Williston at 7 p.m. Also, Seven Rivers Christian at home tonight with Bronson, First Academy of Leesburg, and Faith Christian, and then Citrus High will be home against Bellevue on Friday night at 7. So that is the spring football games that will take place and end spring football for this week, and then they'll get 11 weeks, 12 weeks off, and then
They don't get off.
boom.
They have to come to the weight room.
Well, that's if you're committed to winning, you're not off.
You're not off.
It's just starting.
Right. I did want to mention Nicole Irvin from Citrus High
Citrus,
School signed a letter of intent to run cross country at St. Leo. So congratulations for her.
That's
And
great.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot more coming through at the end of the
You
year.
mentioned Jacob Hensley's going to
Yep.
USF to run as well, so that's fantastic for these young men and women to move on and
Love
get a
to see
chance to
that.
play. Yeah, absolutely. We'll get ready to close it out here on this edition real quick. Buccaneers, I mean,
OTAs are going on right now. Big news is, of course, McCoy not being there. But whether or not that's going to make a difference, I don't think he's going to be there at all.
Is there any way that this? I mean, this is not pretty in the media.
It's not.
Which is okay as long as you're. And I mean, I know a lot of people, as soon as the Jason Pierre-Paul stuff broke, said, "Okay, does this mean you got to revisit the McCoy thing?" And now Jason Pierre-Paul, I guess they're going to reevaluate him early in the season, and perhaps maybe half his season could be saved. Is that the best case scenario?
I think they said 6 to 9 months at the most. 9 months would put him in September. No, October. So they're saying that hopefully it's the 6 months, not the 9 month thing on the neck. But I still think that they're going to have to do something with McCoy. I don't foresee him. I don't know why they haven't done anything from a standpoint of trading.
There's no market.
There's not a market.
No value.
No, there's no way they can get anything for him, I guess.
Right.
But $13 million they just can't afford. They still have to sign some draft guys, and we got a little money left to do that with. So it's really going to be kind of interesting to see how they play out from now on, and seeing how McCoy adjusted. He's already come out and said I'll be playing, but not sure where I'll be playing. He's already said that in the media. And Bruce Arians says I don't deal with people that aren't here. You can read into that any way you want, but it doesn't look like.
Well, I mean,
McCoy's
it's certainly, I would say it's 80% or maybe more that he's not playing here. It could be higher than that, but look, if it happens that he is back in a Buck uniform, Coach Arians is a pro. McCoy's a pro. You'll be able to heal that up quickly. Even though this isn't, and the other thing is too, and we saw that with OTAs going on. This is Coach Arians is not afraid to say your name,
call you out, Hargraves.
Yeah, straight up, right? Which is, it's kind of funny. And I'm not saying that we know more than anybody else, but that's what we were talking about a couple weeks ago. Was this is a guy who's fighting for a job right now, and really should be one of the most prepared men on the team because he's this close to being jobless in terms of the Bucs.
Draft 2 cornerbacks,
and then you make an impression on your head coach like that. That's not a great start.
No, it's not. I don't know what he's going to do. I never liked the pick. Like I said, I've said this from day one. I mean, I'm a University of Florida Gator through and through, but Hargraves did not fit and will not fit into this system.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say about Coach. You're going to know. You know where you stand with Coach Arians. I'm not going to talk about a guy who's not here and the guys that are here if you're not getting the job done.
I will say this about McCoy though. Look, you guys a lot of you are haters. I'm not a hater for McCoy. I actually thought he did a pretty good job based on injuries and so forth, what he's had. I mean, if you look at it, he has one more sack than Sue, and Sue's not working right now. So you have to really kind of see that as a stalwart. Is he all world like Leroy Selman? No, but he is a good player, and whether or not they're going to use him on the defensive end, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not if he does come back. I know he's a professional, as you said, and he will come back and he'll play really well, but it's going to be a hard press to kind of get. The locker room is going to be the problem.
And I think the problem is, look, he's been a good Buccaneer in the overall scheme of
That's
player.
A good way to put it,
Remember, he was on some really bad teams. Also went through all sorts of head coaching transitions, and I'm not saying he's not. I just don't think it's in his nature to be that vocal leader. But he was sort of forced into it because he just was there. He was been there longer than anybody else.
James came in, he stepped back.
Which I think he happily did. But I think he was never comfortable with that vocal leadership role. He quietly wanted to get the job done. And I think the question you'll always have about his talent is, was he an okay player on bad teams? Was he a very good player on bad teams, or what was he? But regardless of that debate, right now this is a player on the decline, worth. Not anywhere near what he's going to get paid, and the Bucs are moving on, and
they will.
That's the way it should be, I suppose. You mentioned, and real quick, not a whole lot going on with college football. I did 100 days away from the start of it, so but I saw Coach Mullen was down in Tampa yesterday, and the first time really had to answer a lot of questions about what has been a really, really bad off season in terms of players, and look, this this happens everywhere. I
Everywhere.
mean, it was
Taggart just
a couple
went
of
through
years
it.
ago. Florida State had to deal with
Yeah.
it. USF deals with it. Now you're sort of going through a little cycle with Mullen and the Gators, and it's
You
it's
can't
tough.
choose. I mean, you choose people. You choose to try to choose your signees, but you can't guarantee what they're going to do in when they get open and free and not from their mommies and everything else, especially in college. And
It's
so
tough.
I tell you that I would never want to be a college coach. I just think it would be
I-
way too much responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, look, I remember.
I'd rather be saying, "Hey, I pay you, do your job." I can't
that's
say
why a
I
lot
don't
of
pay you.
coaches, and there's all sorts of reasons for it, but yeah, you're not going to control 100 and something
No way.
kids and keep your your
Finger on the pulse of every single thing.
yeah,
that they
and
do.
then you hear stories all the time. Assistants and grad assistants are walking players to class to make sure they get there, and then staying to make sure they don't leave. And I mean, these college programs have a lot of resources, and they have a lot of coaches, and they have a lot of money. But you do not have a personal attaché for every player to follow them around and make sure they make the correct decisions. And there's some kids you take a chance on because they are maybe questionable, but you've seen some that have worked out, so you do it. Some, have no questionable backgrounds, but you get into that college environment, and that's not just for athletes.
No.
Those are I saw it firsthand. Kids who didn't even play sports, you get away from home, and that college experience is a little bit different.
I totally agree with that.
And it seems like it becomes cyclical with programs where you just have a group. We mentioned Florida State had their share of troubles the last few years, and Taggart has been there to try and clean it up, and it doesn't happen overnight. Now Florida's kind of going through it, and you got to rule with the iron fist and make sure it doesn't happen. But still, as coaches, you're tasked with winning football games.
That's the ultimate goal.
And so you've got to you see 3 talented kids that can change your program, and they all have some problems in high school, and then what do you do? It's hard to walk away.
It is. I mean, especially you say they're
Because you're a teacher, and you say I can mentor them, I can guide them,
I can fix
Yeah.
it. I can fix it, and then they're telling you the same thing. Well, don't worry, that's in my past. I'll be a good boy.
And you used to be able to fix it a lot quieter without everybody knowing about it
But
too.
Twitter and Instagram do not have help
I
at
mean,
all.
it's not like in the 70s and 80s, it was a bunch of choir boys running around, Oklahoma, Nebraska,
Exactly.
Miami.
Yeah, that's
that
exactly
so
right.
that's just part
now
of
there's
it,
photographs and video recordings and everything else.
which is good. I mean, I think that is good. I mean, some of this should be punished, but
It's always going to happen. It's
Yeah.
always going to happen.
Yeah, it makes for an interesting fall for all the teams, but the
Florida Gators are gonna have
spotlight
a
is on them for the wrong reasons now, and it'll just take a couple of missteps by somebody else in another program, and then the Gators will be fine moving forward. And it's just a shame because it was a great season last year. I mean, a real good turnaround in year number 1. We thought the recruiting was really starting to take shape, and then the class, sort of falls apart. But I mean, I still will go with Dan Mullen's track record and what he did at Mississippi. I need to see him fail before I believe he's going to fail at Florida. If you can do it at Mississippi State and recruit to Starkville, Mississippi, and believe me, I've been to Starkville more times than I care to remember. And it's hard to recruit up there. It's not Gainesville.
It's not Gainesville, for
It's
sure.
not. So I still believe he can put this program on the right track, but you got to get it done on the field, and you also got to get it done
Off
with
the field.
Yeah, so and it's never easy in the SEC. It only gets more difficult.
The SEC, ACC, like I said, Florida State, they have their. I'm looking forward to seeing how Willie Taggart brings them together this year. Again, I'm a Gator, but I love all the Florida teams except for Miami. But
they've got their own set of issues
exactly,
too.
So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for Florida State. We'll get into it a little bit more in the fall, but yeah, they've got to. Look, they had major problems on the offensive line. It was an embarrassment. The whole entire offense was an embarrassment. Willie Taggart turned it over to Kendall Briles. Briles has been, he's straight up with the recruit saying, what you saw with Robert Griffin and Baylor when I was there, that's what we're going to have at Florida State. Okay. You better back it
Let's
up.
do this.
Because it was a nightmare last year, and if that nightmare continues early on in 2019,
ugly.
how long is the leash for Coach Taggart? That becomes an interesting question, because you're chasing Clemson, and that's a losing battle right now with the way Dabo's got that program going. So you better be ready to be the second best team in the ACC quickly, or you're not going to have a job, and that'll be interesting. Kendall Browse was brought in to fix what Willie Taggart couldn't. I mean, Taggart talked the talk last year, but did not back it up. Now, part of the, there's all sorts of fingers being pointed at Jimbo Fisher and what he left there, and I think he certainly is complicit in some of this. But, you still can recruit talent to Florida State, and you better be able to organize that talent in a way where they can be more successful, because even if you've got holes on that roster, you're still more athletically talented than 6 or 7 teams that you play every year, and you can't lose to those teams. No. So that's an interesting year. And then, of course, just real quick, since we're talking football, I think it's going to be fascinating to see what UCF and USF do. It's a Twitter hate war between those two schools. UCF has been right there the last couple of years. They'll play without Mackenzie Milton, obviously. I mean, maybe he's got, but it's year number 2 for Heupel. Is he the guy that's going to continue this? And is this the thing you can continue? I mean, is UCF a school in the American where you can sustain a 5 or 6 year run? Or is it like we've seen these programs before, Boise State and even USF in a couple of years? Yep. Is that what you're destined for, is a little period of 2 or 3 good years and then a little downturn? Charlie Strong's at a point now where he should be able to bring that USF program up there to challenge for the top spot.
I agree. That's Charlie Strong, I think, would be on the bubble here this year if you can't get anything done. At least a winning season minimum. Not so winning season, but a high winning season. And in getting to UCF and beating UCF would be
they need to do that.
They have to do that.
That's why I think it's a big year for UCF as well, because there still was some talent left over from Scott Frost and that coaching staff. And, like I said with Mullen, I trust. I haven't seen enough from Heupel to say he's going to get the job done. I don't know. He obviously was aided by there was this is a program that was on everyone's front page in the state of Florida. Radar, yep. They knew who they are, and can you get those guys in? And is without Mackenzie Milton, who was fantastic, can you continue to play at that level? We saw in the bowl game the offense wasn't the same. Now, granted, that was against LSU, an SEC defense. Can you put up those points in the American and run the table like they have? It's going to be difficult for them. Major League Baseball, Rays continue to play well. Win the 2 games down in Miami, which you should win, because that's at best a minor team. But continue to play well. So that'll put them. Go ahead.
Not just lost 2 up to the Yankees, though.
Yeah.
Just kind of, you're seeing a little bit of a crink there, because the Yankees, of course, are juggling.
They're red hot.
They're red hot.
Nobody.
And exactly, they got people sitting on the bench that are going to come up. So it's going to be difficult for them to sustain it. But I think the Rays can just play within themselves. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, they should be consistent all summer and be right there come playoff time, which is probably more than we thought. I mean, but give Cash and them credit. They're capitalizing on a 90-win season a year ago. It looks like they can do the same this year or improve, which is pretty good for a team that is headed out of town soon. But, we'll see. 8,000 a game doesn't cut it, but.
Well, you saw the Marlins.
That's the only thing you hear about. But it's bad in a lot of places. The White Sox, So that'll do it for us for this edition of the podcast. Enjoy some football tonight if you're headed out. Enjoy the baseball and softball. Good luck to Crystal River and Seven Rivers as they try to move on to the state Final Four. We'll see everybody again next week.